The other thing that we've noticed, of course, in the industry is crypto companies applying for bank licenses. Anchorage Digital, Circle, Ripple, each have made their own moves. What do you make of that? Why do they need them? Is there a common thread, or is each going for their own reason?
Yeah, well, I would make a couple comments on that. There's why they need them, and then what should the incumbent banks worry about that happening? The reason they need them is because there's certain powers that come with having a bank license. You can take deposits. You can perform fiduciary activities. You can operate across state lines if you're a national bank. There are all kinds of things you can do. And you can't do those in any other corporate form. There's no other license that allows you to do that. So it's a great tool to have. They want the same powers that JP Morgan has. If I were looking at the space, I'd be more worried if I were JP Morgan than if I were one of these crypto companies, because historically the biggest banks have said, we own the payment system and we own the deposit system, so we're unassailable and we don't have to touch some of these newfangled digital assets. But the worry is when the most scale digital asset companies get bank charters, you flip the script and all of a sudden they'll be able to offer a range of banking services plus digital assets that the incumbents aren't able to do.
Brian Brooks, to open this video, telling us that your major banks like JP Morgan, they better be concerned because their monopoly, it's coming to an end, and it's coming to an end quickly. Major technology companies like Ripple, Coinbase, Circle, they're going to get banking charters, Fed access, and when that happens and that monopoly comes falling down, they're not going to be able to compete because they have the same powers and abilities that any bank has, and you tack onto it their technology advantage, and it's wide open and for the taking. And you're going to see the government cozy up to these companies like Ripple, companies like Circle. And the reason is because they can take digital dollars and zip them into any territory they want over trustless rails. The number one product, U.S. debt, just expanding its reach, expanding its use. And that's what we need. And that's why you see now the government saying, oh, yeah, we like Ripple. We want to do business with Coinbase and all this stuff because we need this. We need more users of our debt, of our dollars, and it's going down. You cannot stop progress. That monopoly that banks have enjoyed is coming to an end and quickly. And we got more news on that today. Now, looking at XRP, we're sitting at $2.48. Again, I think we're at a great staging area for when the shutdown comes to an end. And then you know what happens. We are going to get ETFs, which are going to change the game once and for all. Can't wait for that moment. Now, we have this news from Paul Barron. Update, the Fed changed the game for crypto payments. Governor Waller's new skinny master account framework means stablecoin issuers can access Fed rails directly. Crypto payment companies cut out banking intermediaries. And it's not just about, sharing the profits. That's one thing. But it makes your stablecoin that much more powerful because we saw what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. It crumbled and then everyone's like, oh no, where's the money? Maybe we don't have the money, then the stablecoin goes to zero if you don't have the backing. Well, if you have direct Fed access, you don't have to worry about it. Your dollars are safe directly with the Fed. You don't have to worry about this stuff. Faster settlements, lower costs, legitimacy, of course. Fed access supporting crypto integration. Companies like Ripple, Circle, and Anchorage have been fighting for this for years, and they're going to get it. It's going to happen, and this is our Trojan horse. As soon as you have direct integration, well, then it's just a hop, skip, and a jump, or a mouse click from a digital dollar to an XRP, or an Ethereum, or a Bitcoin. Now we have direct integration with digital dollars, and it just makes blockchain that much more exciting and valuable and usable, and that's the key here. If you're watching this video, and you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the daily crypto updates. We'll keep them coming. Now, this is really exciting here. Vet telling us that XRP Ledger smart contracts proof of concept. This is coming to the DevNet, of course, so developers can test this functionality. Again, we don't want full smart contract capability directly on the main ledger because it could slow things down, increase costs, all of that. We want to keep it lean and mean. But you need some functionality here. Maybe you want to add something, some minor new feature. Well, you can do that with a smart contract. Maybe you want to use it to link to other chains, mint, stablecoins, whatever. We need some of this, and they're getting close. So once this is on the DevNet, then they can test it, see how if it depreciates any of the performance, if we run into any problems, if it's ready to go. We're going to get this down, and you're going to have the EVM sidechain for your full smart contract capability suite there. That's fantastic, but also it's going to be a game changer once we get it on the main net. Again, if for nothing else, just linking to other chains and minting and burning stablecoins. Like, we need some basic smart contract functionality, some basic programmability, and we're going to get it there. For this Only North SPAC, $1 billion XRP SPAC that's going to be launching, they put their filings here to communicate to potential investors, the value proposition here. And you'll notice one of the things here is the XRP Army. You don't understand that you're one of the most valuable parts of this ecosystem as an investor, as a user. You have to have users to have value in blockchain. And of course, they highlight exactly that, you. I also like they highlight some of the influencers, some of the people that are really into this. Let me see if I can blow this up. And on X, a lot of our favorites there, right? But you see Crypto Eddie, one of the top players there on X. And then over at YouTube again, once again, Crypto Eddie reigning supreme. And this $1 billion SPAC, why XRP is so valuable. We see Crypto Eddie on both sides dominating YouTube and X. Doesn't get any better than that. And it's truthful. I mean, come on, doesn't get any better than that. All right, Raul Paul says we are heading into a 5-year cycle now that Bitcoin should peak sometime in 2026. Hey, I like that better than it's already peaked, and we're going back to a bear market. I don't know about this 4 or 5 year cycle, but I think he's right. I think we're going to peak here early 2026, and I think we're going to have an explosive end to this year, in my opinion. We'll see it play out. Next story here, gold will never be a store of value. It fell today 5% in one day, and you can't buy coffee with it. It's going to zero. These are the same arguments that people make about crypto, and it's ridiculous. Gold has been around as long as anything. It obviously has value. You can't buy coffees with, gold bars or gold coins, and it can be quite volatile in its own right, but it has its place in financial markets here. Base is building for private transactions. This is really the rage here. You see this happening on the XRP ledger as well. Now, don't confuse this with Monero. That's not privacy. Monero is secrecy, which means no one, no matter what, can see what you're up to. Privacy just means the general everyday person can't just look at the blockchain and see what you're doing. You're able to transact in a private manner. Of course, if governments or regulators need to look at what you're up to, they can get that data. And so we're seeing everyone converge on this idea. As we start to actually go into full adoption from institutions, banks, all of that, they're going to require this to some extent, and it's coming quick. Everyone's building solutions. Again, Coinbase with Base. You have Ripple doing it. Ethereum. Everyone needs a privacy solution as we go forward here. President Trump saying we're going to see $20 trillion in investments flow into the U.S. by the end of this year. I don't know if we're going to see exactly that, but we should see big investments flowing into the U.S. And where's it going to hit? Well, it's going to hit artificial intelligence, and it's going to hit on blockchain development. Those are going to be your big drivers here as we close out this year. Best believe that. Crypto czar David Sachs will meet tomorrow with the GOP members of the Senate Banking Committee to push for advancing the market structure bill this year. Remember, you had industry titans like Ripple and Coinbase. They met with Democrats just the other day. Now we have David Sachs meeting with Republicans. Let's get this done. It's so important we get it done now. We get it done this year because next year's an election year, and it's getting ready for the midterms, and it's much more difficult to get anything done. This needs to happen now, and I think that it will. New ProShares is officially filed for the ProShares CoinDesk Crypto 20 ETF to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The fund will track the CoinDesk Crypto 20 Index. Of course, this includes XRP, probably HBAR, your top 20 coins that many of you out there would be interested in. This is a big one, and I think a lot of people will like this. Again, your everyday investor that's like, I don't want to dig through the specifics, just give me some exposure to the broader market, but I want main coins, I don't want junk. Well, this is going to be one way they're going to do that. And the more and more ETFs like this that come out, your top coins, I'm sure it'll be weighted. So, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum, XRP will be some of the highest weights in a fund like this. We just see Wells Fargo saying AI is not in a bubble, calling it a transformative tech cycle, not a hype phase. This is the problem with that, though. We have bubbles in transformative tech cycles. We saw that with the internet, right? The dot-com bubble. Internet changed the world. I'm talking to you right now on the internet. You do transactions every day. Like, we understand how that changed our lives. There was still a bubble there. So potentially we could see that with artificial intelligence. I agree. This is going to change, everything in our world, but it doesn't mean that things can't get a little out of hand if we start growing. But the good thing is it helps fund the future. It's not a total waste just because some investments go to zero. It's actually an important part of any cycle. But don't be fooled. Just because AI is here to stay doesn't mean that some companies ain't going to go under over the long haul. We'll see. Lastly, Brian Armstrong, Base is building private transactions. We covered that, so let's do one more story. President Trump says his planned meeting with the president of China, President Xi, may not happen. So we're seeing some escalating trade tensions here. Let's hope that happens. Again, you start spooking the market, we could see a sell-off in financial markets. Hopefully not. Hopefully this gets done. You do not want things to escalate here. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.